Bad men are following us. Just pretend you're our dad, please. Please.
Okay, stay calm. I'm here.
The coffee cup shattered against the marble floor. Kang Jae-hyuk didn't flinch as the scalding liquid splashed near his Italian leather shoes. His eyes remained fixed on the three men who'd just entered the cafe, their hands hovering near concealed weapons beneath their suit jackets. He'd killed men for less threatening gestures, but today he was trying something new, something his therapist called restraint. The barista scrambled to clean up the mess, apologizing profusely in rapid Korean. Jae-hyuk waved her off, his attention still locked on the armed men scanning the crowded Seoul cafe. They were looking for something, or someone. Then he felt it. Two small bodies sliding into the booth across from him, moving with the kind of desperate speed that only came from genuine fear. "Daddy!" The voice was high-pitched, breathless. "We've been looking everywhere for you." Jae-hyuk's hand instinctively moved toward the gun holstered beneath his jacket before his brain caught up with his eyes. Two identical little girls sat across from him, their dark skin gleaming with sweat, their matching braids slightly disheveled. They couldn't have been more than 8 years old, and they were staring at him with eyes that held far too much knowledge for children their age. Before he could speak, one of them leaned forward, her voice dropping to an urgent whisper that only he could hear. "Please," she said, her accent crisp and clear. "Bad men are following us. Just pretend you're our dad. Please." And that's when Jae-hyuk understood, because he recognized the look in those three men's eyes. He'd worn that same look countless times before he decided to leave his empire behind. They were hunters, and these children were prey. But before we continue with this incredible story, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our stories. Drop a comment below telling me where you are watching from, and smash that like button. Now, let's get back to the story. The taller of the armed men was already making his way through the cafe, his eyes methodical as they swept across each table. Jae-hyuk had maybe 30 seconds before they reached his booth. He made a decision that would change everything. "Where have you two been?" He kept his voice loud enough for nearby tables to hear, infusing it with just the right amount of parental exasperation. "Nah, your mother is worried sick." The girl who'd spoken visibly relaxed, though her twin remained rigid with fear. Up close, Jae-hyuk could see the subtle differences between them. The one who'd spoken had a small scar above her left eyebrow. The other had slightly longer lashes. "We're sorry, Daddy," the scarred one said, falling into the role with impressive ease. "We just wanted to see the shopping district." In the middle of a school day? Jae-hyuk raised an eyebrow, channeling every stern father figure he'd ever seen in movies. He had no idea what he was doing, but apparently it was working. The nearby tables had already lost interest, turning back to their own conversations. The armed man reached their booth just as Jae-hyuk was gesturing to the barista for 2 hot chocolates. "Excuse me." The man's voice was rough, his Korean tinged with a slight accent Jae-hyuk couldn't quite place. "Have you seen 2 young girls? African, alone, running through here?" Jae-hyuk let his eyes travel slowly from the man's cheap shoes to his poorly fitted suit to his face. He let every ounce of his former authority seep into his expression. When he spoke, his voice could have frozen fire. "Do I look like I keep track of random children?" He gestured dismissively at the twins. "I have my hands full with my own daughters. Now, unless you're planning to order something, you're blocking my view." The man hesitated. Jae-hyuk could see the calculation happening behind his eyes. Could these be the girls? But they were sitting with a man who radiated wealth and danger in equal measure. A man whose entire posture screamed that he would be a very bad person to cross. "My apologies," the man finally said, backing away. But his 2 companions weren't convinced. They approached from different angles, trying to get a better look at the girls. The twins had gone very still, their eyes downcast, their hands clasped together on the table. Jae-hyuk noticed that their fingers were intertwined so tightly that their knuckles had gone pale. "Zara," he said, picking a name at random and hoping he'd guessed right. "Look at me." The girl with the scar looked up, and he saw gratitude flash across her young face. He'd guessed correctly. "Tell me again why you thought skipping school was a good idea." "We wanted to surprise you for your birthday," she said. And there was something rehearsed about the way she said it, like she'd prepared for this exact scenario. "We saved our allowance to buy you a present." The man who'd first approached them was now conferring with his colleagues in hushed tones. Jae-hyuk couldn't hear the words, but he could read the body language. They weren't convinced, but they also weren't certain enough to cause a scene in a crowded cafe. Jae-hyuk reached into his jacket, and all three men tensed. He smiled coldly as he pulled out not a gun, but a phone. He made a show of checking the time. "Your mother's going to kill me for letting you two talk me into hot chocolate before dinner." He looked directly at the lead man. "Is there something else you need? Because you're making my daughters uncomfortable." It was a calculated risk. By acknowledging the men's presence, by meeting their threat with casual confidence, so he was either going to scare them off or provoke them into action. In a crowded cafe in broad daylight, he was betting on the former. The lead man's jaw tightened. "No, sorry to disturb your family time." They left. But Jae-hyuk watched in the reflection of the cafe's windows as they took up positions outside, watching the entrance. "They're waiting for us," the other twin whispered. Her voice trembled slightly. "I know," Jae-hyuk said quietly. He studied the two girls across from him. These strangers who just pulled him into something that his instincts told him was very, very dangerous. "What are your names? Your real names?" "I'm Zara," said the one with the scar. "This is my sister, Zuri." "And who are those men, Zara?" The girls exchanged a look, communicating in that wordless way that twins sometimes did. Finally, Zara spoke. "They work for the people who killed our mother." Jae-hyuk felt something cold settle in his chest. "Your mother is dead?" Zuri nodded, tears suddenly streaming down her cheeks. 2 weeks ago, she was a diplomat from Africa. She found out about bad things and she tried to stop them, and then she died in a car accident that wasn't really an accident. "And now they want us because of what Mama told us," Zara continued, her hand moving to touch a small locket hanging around her neck. Zuri wore an identical one, because of what she gave us. "Go to the police," Jae-hyuk said, though even as the words left his mouth, he knew how hollow they sounded. "We tried." Zara's voice was bitter in a way that no 8-year-olds should be. "The police captain came to our house the day after the funeral. He was very nice. He asked us lots of questions about what Mama had told us, about what she might have given us. And then we saw him, outside, talking to one of those men out there, laughing with him." Jae-hyuk closed his eyes briefly. Of course. Corruption ran deep in every system. He knew that better than most. "We've been hiding for 2 weeks," Zuri added, her voice small. "Sleeping in parks, in subway stations. We tried to go to our aunt, but they were watching her house. We tried to go to our mother's friends, but everyone is too scared. And then today, they almost caught us, and we ran in here and we saw you, and you looked strong, scary, like someone who could protect us." "I'm not a good man," Jae-hyuk heard himself say. "I've done terrible things." "We don't need a good man," Zara said, meeting his eyes with a directness that was startling. "And we need a strong one, just for today. Just until we figure out what to do next. Please." The hot chocolates arrived. Jae-hyuk watched as both girls wrapped their hands around the warm cups, but didn't drink. They were too tense, too ready to run. He should walk away. He'd left his old life behind for a reason. He'd promised himself no more violence, no more darkness. He was trying to be better, trying to find some kind of redemption for all the blood on his hands. But then, Zuri looked up at him, and something in her eyes reminded him of his younger sister, the sister he'd failed to protect all those years ago, the sister whose death had started him down this dark path in the first place. "Finish your drinks," he said quietly. "Then we're going to walk out of here together. You're going to hold my hands, you're going to smile, and we're going to get into my car like a normal family. Can you do that?" Both girls nodded. "Those men outside will follow us. That's fine. I'll deal with them later. But right now, I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" "Yes," they said in unison. 15 minutes later, they walked out of the cafe. Zara held his left hand, Zuri his right. They'd finished their hot chocolate and some color had returned to their faces. To any observer, they looked like a father with his daughters, perhaps heading home after an afternoon treat. The three men weren't even trying to hide now. They followed at a distance of about 20 meters, making no attempt at subtlety. Jae-hyuk's car was parked 2 blocks away, a sleek black Mercedes that had cost more than most people earned in a year. His driver, Min Soo, was leaning against it, just scrolling through his phone, when he looked up and saw his boss approaching with 2 children. His eyes widened in confusion. Boss? Minsu's hand moved instinctively toward his weapon. Not now, Jae-hyuk said quietly. Open the door. We have passengers. Minsu had worked for Jae-hyuk for 15 years. He knew when to ask questions and when to simply obey. This was an obey moment. He opened the rear door without another word. Jae-hyuk helped both girls into the car, then slid in beside them. Drive, the penthouse. Boss, we have a tail, Minsu said, his eyes on the rearview mirror. I know. Lose them. What followed was a chase through Seoul's crowded streets that had both girls gripping their seats with white knuckles. Minsu was an expert driver, weaving through traffic with the kind of precision that came from years of escaping dangerous situations. By the time they pulled into the underground garage of Jae-hyuk's building, they'd lost their tail completely. The penthouse was everything the cafe had not been. Cold, sterile, expensive. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Seoul skyline, but the furniture was minimalist and unwelcoming. This was a place where someone existed, not lived. Both girls stood in the entrance, suddenly looking very small and very lost. Are you hungry? Jae-hyuk found himself asking. They nodded. He ordered food. Korean fried chicken, because it was the only thing he could think of that children might like. While they waited, he set them up in his guest room. It had a bed that had never been slept in, a dresser that had never held clothes, and windows that had never been opened to let in fresh air. You can stay here tonight, he told them. Tomorrow we'll figure out what to do next. Thank you, Zara said. Then, quietly, what should we call you? It was a good question. He couldn't very well have them calling him by his real name, not if people were looking for them. Call me, he hesitated. Call me Appa. If anyone asks, that's what you call me. Appa. Father. The word felt strange on his tongue. The food arrived and they ate in awkward silence. Jae-hyuk watched as both girls devoured their meal with the single-minded focus of people who hadn't eaten properly in days. When they were done, Zuri's eyes were already drooping with exhaustion. Go to sleep, he told them. You're safe here, I promise. After they'd gone to bed, Jae-hyuk sat in his living room and made a phone call. Minsu, I need you to find out everything you can about an African diplomat who died in a car accident about 2 weeks ago. She had 2 daughters, twins, named Zara and Zuri. Boss, what are you getting into? I don't know yet, Jae-hyuk admitted, but those girls need help, and I'm going to give it to them. This isn't like you. Since when do you rescue orphans? Since never, Jae-hyuk thought. Since he'd been trying to leave his old life behind. Since he'd been trying to be someone different. Just find the information, he said, and ended the call. He sat in the darkness for a long time, staring out at the city lights. He should have walked away, should have called social services, let the system handle it. But the system had failed these girls, just like it had failed his sister all those years ago. Around midnight, he heard a sound. Soft crying coming from the guest room. He found Zuri sitting up in bed, tears streaming down her face. Zara was beside her, holding her hand, but she looked just as devastated. Hey, Jae-hyuk said awkwardly, hovering in the doorway. What's wrong? We miss our mama, Zuri sobbed. We want our mama. And what could he say to that? What words existed that could comfort a child who'd lost everything? He sat on the edge of the bed, feeling completely out of his depth. Tell me about her, he said finally. Tell me about your mama. And they did. They talked about Dr. Ada Okonkwo, who'd worked tirelessly to help people, who'd sung to them every night, who'd taught them to be brave and smart and kind. And they talked until their voices grew hoarse and their tears ran dry. And somewhere in the middle of it all, Jae-hyuk felt something crack in his chest. These girls had lost everything, and they'd chosen to trust him, a stranger, because they had no one else. He couldn't fail them. He wouldn't. I promise you, he said, and he meant it with every fiber of his being. I'm going to keep you safe, whatever it takes. Morning came with the smell of burning toast. Jae-hyuk jerked awake on his couch, momentarily disoriented. Then he remembered. The twins. He'd fallen asleep watching over them, and now smoke was billowing from his kitchen. He rushed in to find Zara standing on a chair, frantically waving a towel at the smoke detector, while Zuri tried to scrape blackened bread into the sink. We wanted to make breakfast, Zara said, looking mortified. To say thank you, but we don't know how to use your fancy toaster. Jae-hyuk stared at the disaster that was his kitchen. Then, inexplicably, he laughed. actually laughed. When was the last time he'd done that? Come on, he said, opening windows to clear the smoke. Let me show you how it works. Then we'll make breakfast together. It took 3 attempts and a minor egg-related catastrophe, but they eventually produced something edible. As they sat at his dining table, eating scrambled eggs and properly toasted bread, Minsu arrived with a thick folder. Boss, you need to see this. His eyes flickered to the twins. Maybe in private? They should hear it too, Jae-hyuk said. It's about their mother. Minsu laid out the documents. Dr. Ada Okonkwo, Nigerian diplomat, stationed in Seoul for 3 years, specialized in human rights investigations. 2 weeks ago, she was killed when her car went off a bridge. Police ruled it an accident, but here's the interesting part. He pulled out a photograph. The day before she died, she met with an investigative journalist, told her she'd uncovered a massive human trafficking operation. Routes running from Southeast Asia through Korea to Europe. She said she had evidence. Names, routes, everything. Zara's hand moved to her locket again. Jae-hyuk noticed. What's in the locket, Zara? She exchanged a look with Zuri, then carefully removed it. With small fingers, she twisted the back, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside was a micro USB drive. Mama gave us these the night before she died, Zara whispered. She said if anything happened to her, we should keep them safe, and that they would help good people stop bad people. Minsu's expression darkened. Boss, there's more. The trafficking operation. It's connected to Park Do-jin. Jae-hyuk felt his blood run cold. Park Do-jin, his former rival. A man so ruthless that even other criminals feared him. He's been expanding since you left the game, Minsu continued. Trafficking, drugs, weapons. He's built an empire. And if Dr. Okonkwo had evidence against him, he killed her, Jae-hyuk finished. And now he wants to kill her daughters, to make sure that evidence never sees the light of day. We can't go to the police, Zuri said, her voice small. Can we? No, Jae-hyuk admitted. If Do-jin has connections in the police, they'll just hand you over to him. He looked at the USB drive. We need to see what's on this. 20 minutes later, they were gathered around his laptop. The files were encrypted, but Minsu was skilled with computers. It took him less than an hour to crack it. What they found was damning. Names, dates, photographs, shipping manifests, bank transfers, a complete map of a trafficking network that spanned 3 continents. And at the center of it all, Park Do-jin's name appeared again and again. This is enough to bring down his entire operation, Minsu said quietly, to put him away for life. Maybe even trigger an international investigation. Which is why he'll do anything to get it back, Jae-hyuk said. He looked at the twins, who were watching him with those 2 old eyes. You 2 have been carrying this around for 2 weeks? Do you understand how dangerous this is? Mama said it was important, Zara said simply. She said we had to be brave. Brave. These 8-year-old girls had been hunted through the streets of Seoul, had slept rough and gone hungry, all while protecting evidence that could destroy a criminal empire. If that wasn't brave, Jae-hyuk didn't know what was. Okay, he said, making a decision. We're going to finish what your mother started. We're going to use this evidence to take down Park Do-jin and everyone involved in this operation. Boss, Minsu said carefully, that means going to war. You've been out for almost a year. You sure you want back in? I don't want back in, Jae-hyuk said. But these girls need protection, and the only way to truly protect them is to eliminate the threat. Permanently. The next 2 weeks passed in a strange new rhythm. During the day, Jae-hyuk worked with his old contacts, slowly building a case and planning his move against Do-jin. But he also did something he'd never done before. He lived with children. Zara and Zuri needed clothes, so he took them shopping. They needed education, so he enrolled them in an elite private school using falsified documents that Minsu produced. They needed stability, so he established routines. Breakfast at 7. School drop-off at 8. Homework at 4. Dinner at 6. Bedtime at 9. It was exhausting and terrifying, and completely foreign to everything he knew. But it was also something else. Something he couldn't quite name. The school called him on the 3rd day. Mr. Kang, we need you to come in immediately. He arrived to find Amara in the principal's office, her knuckles bruised, her expression defiant. A boy sat across from her, holding an ice pack to his nose. What happened? Jae-hyuk demanded. Your daughter attacked Jiwoo without provocation, the principal said. That's not true. Zara jumped to her feet. He called Zuri the N-word. He said we didn't belong here. He said we should go back to where we came from. So I punched him. The principal's face reddened. Be that as it may, violence is not acceptable. No, Jae-hyuk interrupted, his voice dropping to that dangerous quiet that made men think twice. What's not acceptable is racism in your school. What's not acceptable is a teacher allowing a child to be bullied while doing nothing about it. He turned to the boy, whose father had just arrived. The man was wealthy, judging by his designer suit and expensive watch. The kind of man who thought his money made him untouchable. Your son, Jae-hyuk said coldly, owes my daughters an apology. My son did nothing wrong, the man blustered. These foreign children need to learn their place. Jae-hyuk stepped closer, and something in his expression made the man take an involuntary step back. Let me make something very clear, Jae-hyuk said, his voice soft and lethal. If your son so much as looks at my daughters the wrong way again, if he says one more word to them, if he even breathes in their direction, I will make it my personal mission to destroy everything you've built. Your business, your reputation, everything. Do you understand me? The man's face went pale. He might not have known exactly who Jae-hyuk was, but he recognized danger when he saw it. Jiwoo, apologize, he said shakily. The boy mumbled an apology. Jae-hyuk took Zara's hand and walked out, leaving the principal and the other father staring after them in shock. In the car, Zara was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, Thank you for believing me. I'll always believe you, Jae-hyuk found himself saying. Both of you. Always. That night, after the twins had gone to bed, Min-soo came to him with news. Park Do-jin knows they're with you. Jae-hyuk had been expecting this. How did he find out? One of his people spotted them at the school. Boss, he sent a message. Min-soo handed over a phone. The text was simple and direct. Return what you stole, or everyone you care about dies. He's threatening the girls, Jae-hyuk said. He's threatening you too. Boss, Do-jin doesn't play games. If he says he'll kill them, he will. Then, we strike first. Jae-hyuk had already been planning this, but now the timeline had accelerated. Tomorrow night, we take the evidence to Kim Soo-jin. Kim Soo-jin was the only investigative journalist in Seoul, with the courage and the connections to publish something this explosive. She was also incorruptible, which made her rare and valuable. And if Do-jin moves against us before then we fight. Jae-hyuk looked toward the room where the twins slept. I won't let anything happen to them, Min-soo. I don't care what it costs. But Park Do-jin moved faster than expected. It happened at 2 a.m. Jae-hyuk woke to the sound of breaking glass. Years of survival instinct had him on his feet with a gun in his hand before he was fully conscious. Stay in your room, he shouted to the twins as armed men burst through his front door. There were 4 of them, professionals, moving with military precision. Jae-hyuk shot the first one before he'd taken 3 steps. The second went down with a bullet to the leg, but the third and fourth had already split up, one heading for the twins' room. Jae-hyuk moved faster than he had in years, tackling the man before he could reach the door. They crashed into his expensive coffee table, shattering it. The man was good, trained, but Jae-hyuk had been fighting for his life since he was 15. He had the man unconscious in under a minute. The fourth attacker fired, the bullet grazing Jae-hyuk's shoulder. He barely felt it, too focused on eliminating the threat. 2 more shots and the man was down. Then he heard screaming. The twins. And he burst into their room to find it empty. The window was open, curtains billowing in the night breeze. No, 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 no. But then he heard it. Small voices, frightened but alive, coming from beneath the bed. Appa? Zuri's voice was trembling. Is it safe? Relief flooded through him so intensely it made him dizzy. Yes, it's safe. Come out. They crawled out and he pulled them both into his arms, not caring that he was getting blood on their pajamas. You told us to hide if anything bad happened, Zara said into his chest. So we hid. You did perfectly, he told them. You were so brave. So brave. But when Zuri pulled back, she saw the blood seeping through his shirt. You're hurt. It's nothing, just a scratch. Min-soo arrived 10 minutes later with a cleanup crew. The bodies were removed. Then the broken glass swept up, the blood scrubbed away. By dawn, it was as if nothing had happened, except Everything had changed. We can't stay here, Jae-hyuk said. Doo-jin knows where we live. He'll send more men. They moved to a safe house outside the city. It was smaller, less luxurious, but it was secure. And for the first time since this had all started, Jae-hyuk admitted to himself what he'd been trying to deny. He cared about these girls, not as a duty or an obligation, but genuinely, deeply cared about them. The thought of anything happening to them made his chest tight with fear. We need to end this, he told Min-soo. Not tomorrow, tonight. We take the evidence to Kim Soo-jin tonight. Boss, that's not enough time to plan properly. We don't have time. Doo-jin is escalating. Next time, we might not be so lucky. The plan was simple. Min-soo would take the twins to a separate safe location while Jae-hyuk met with the journalist. Once the story was published, Do-jin's protection would evaporate. The evidence would be public. Killing the twins would serve no purpose, and the international pressure would force the authorities to act. But when Jae-hyuk explained this to Zara and Zuri, they refused. We're not leaving you, Zara said stubbornly. This is too dangerous. You need to stay safe. We need to stay together, Zuri insisted. We're a family now. Families don't leave each other. Family. The word hit him harder than any bullet. Since when are we a family, he asked, his voice rough. Since you protected us, Zara said. Since you believed me at school. Since you held us when we were scared. No, since you became our appa for real. Not just pretend. Jae-hyuk found he had no argument for that. Because she was right. Somewhere along the way, without him noticing, these two girls had become his. And he had become theirs. Okay, he said finally. Okay, we do this together. But you follow my instructions exactly. No arguments. Deal? Deal, they said in unison. That night, they headed to Kim Soo-jin's office building in downtown Seoul. Min-soo drove while Jae-hyuk sat in back with the twins. They were dressed in dark clothes, looking small and scared, but trying to be brave. When we get there, Jae-hyuk told them, you stay in the car with Min-soo. I'll be back in 20 minutes. If anything happens, if anyone approaches the car, you run. Don't wait for me. Just run. Min-soo will keep you safe. But what about you? Zuri asked. I'll be fine. I always am. It was a lie, but a comforting one. They parked 2 blocks from the building. Jae-hyuk checked his weapon, tucked the USB drive into his jacket pocket, and was about to exit when Zara grabbed his hand. Come back to us, she said. Please. I promise, he told her, and meant it with everything he had. He'd walked half a block when he heard the screech of tires. Jae-hyuk spun around to see 3 black vans surrounding his car. Armed men poured out, and his heart stopped. No, not the twins. He was running before conscious thought caught up with him, gun already in his hand. But there were too many of them, and they were too well organized. By the time he reached the car, it was surrounded. Min-soo was already out, his hands raised. The twins sat frozen in the back seat, their faces pressed against the window. Kang Jae-hyuk. The voice came from the largest van. Park Do-jin stepped out, flanked by more armed men. You've been causing me a lot of trouble. Let the children go, Jae-hyuk said, his gun trained on Do-jin. This is between us. Is it? Because from where I'm standing, those children have something that belongs to me. And you've been harboring them, protecting them, preventing me from retrieving my property. They're not property. They're people. Children. Do-jin smiled, and it was the smile of a snake. Touching. Really. The great Kang Jae-hyuk, gone soft over a couple of orphans. I almost can't believe it. Last chance, Jae-hyuk said. Let them go. Or what? You'll shoot me? Look around, Kang. You're outnumbered 20-1. You could maybe kill me, maybe take down 3 or 4 of my men, but the rest will kill you, kill your driver, and take the girls anyway. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to give me that USB drive, then you're going to walk away. And maybe, just maybe, I'll let all of you live. Jae-hyuk's mind raced through possibilities. Do-jin was right. He was outgunned, outmanned. Fighting would only get them all killed. But then he heard it. Sirens. Multiple sirens approaching fast. Do-jin heard them too. His expression darkened. What did you do? Jae-hyuk smiled grimly. Insurance. I sent copies of the evidence to every news outlet and law enforcement agency in Seoul an hour ago. Timed release. By now everyone knows what you've done. It was a bluff, but it was a good one. You're lying, Do-jin snarled. Am I? Want to bet these girls' lives on it? The sirens were getting closer. Dojin's men were getting nervous, looking to their boss for direction. "Kill them," Dojin ordered. "Kill them all." But before anyone could move, the back door of Jae-hyuk's car flew open. Zara tumbled out, holding something in her hand. Her locket. "Wait," she screamed. "I'll give it to you. Just don't hurt my appa." "Zara, no!" Jae-hyuk started forward, but 3 guns immediately trained on him. Zara walked toward Dojin with trembling steps, holding out the locket. Zuri scrambled out of the car after her sister. "Zara, what are you doing?" Zuri cried. "Saving our family," Zara said. She looked at Dojin. "This is what you want, right? The evidence. Take it, just let us go." Dojin snatched the locket from her hand, opened it, removed the USB drive. Sane, he examined it, then smiled. "Brave little things, aren't you? Too bad you're all so stupid. Did you really think I'd let you live? You've seen too much. You know too much." He raised his gun, pointing it directly at Zara's head. And that's when everything happened at once. Jae-hyuk fired, hitting Dojin's gun hand. The weapon went flying. Min-soo threw something that erupted in blinding smoke. The sirens, now deafening, announced the arrival of actual police cars, real ones, not the corrupt officers on Dojin's payroll. But more importantly, Zara was smiling. "You're stupid too," she told Dojin. "That's not the real USB. That's a fake. We made 2 copies. Appa has one, and the other," she pointed up. On the building across the street, a news helicopter was capturing everything. And in that helicopter, the Kim Soo-jin herself was visible, holding up the real USB drive and giving them a thumbs up. "We uploaded everything to her cloud storage this morning," Zuri added proudly. "Appa taught us about backup plans." The police swarmed in, their weapons drawn, shouting commands. Dojin's men dropped their weapons, knowing when they were beaten. Dojin himself stood frozen, realizing he'd lost everything. But Jae-hyuk wasn't watching Dojin anymore. He was running to the twins, dropping to his knees and pulling them both into his arms. "You brilliant, terrifying, wonderful girls," he said, his voice breaking. "Don't ever scare me like that again." "We learned from the best," Zara said, hugging him tight. "You taught us to be brave," Zuri added, "and to always have a backup plan." And as the police led Park Dojin away in handcuffs, as news helicopters circled overhead broadcasting the story that would bring down an international trafficking ring, as Min-soo stood guard over them with tears in his eyes, Jae-hyuk held his daughters and realized something profound. He'd spent his whole life being strong, being feared, being powerful. But this, right here, was the first time he'd ever truly felt like he'd won something that mattered. 6 months later, Jae-hyuk sat in a courtroom, wearing his best suit and trying not to fidget. Zara and Zuri sat beside him, equally nervous, their hands clasped in his. The judge reviewed the paperwork one final time, then looked up with a smile. "Mr. Kang, you understand the responsibilities you're accepting? The commitment you're making?" "Yes, Your Honor," Jae-hyuk said. "I understand completely. And girls, you want Mr. Kang to be your legal father? This is permanent. This is forever." "Yes," Zara and Zuri said together. Then Zara added, "He's already our appa. We just want to make it official." The judge's smile widened. "Then, by the power vested in me, I grant this adoption. Congratulations, Mr. Kang. Congratulations, Zara and Zuri. You're officially a family." The courtroom erupted in applause. Min-soo was crying openly, not even trying to hide it. But Jae-hyuk only had eyes for his daughters, his family, as they threw their arms around him. Later, at their new home, a real home this time, with warmth and laughter and life, they hung a photograph on the wall. Dr. Ada Okonkwo smiled out from the frame, forever young, forever proud. "Mama would have liked you," Zara said, looking at the picture. "I wish I could have known her," Jae-hyuk replied honestly. "You do know her," Zuri said wisely. "She's in us, in everything we do, in how we're brave and smart and kind, just like she taught us. And now you're teaching us too." That night, after tucking both girls into bed, Jae-hyuk stood in their doorway, watching them sleep. They looked peaceful, safe, loved. Everything children should be. He thought about the man he'd been a year ago, cold, alone, lost. And he thought about who he was now, a father, a protector, a man with purpose. The road hadn't been easy. But then again, Nothing worth having ever was. "Good night, my brave girls," he whispered. "I love you." From the darkness came two sleepy voices in unison. "We love you too, Appa." And in that moment, because King Jae-hyuk knew with absolute certainty that he was exactly where he was meant to be. Because family isn't always about blood. Sometimes it's about the people who choose to love you when you have nothing left. Sometimes it's about two scared little girls who whispered, "Pretend you're our dad," and a broken man who discovered that pretending could become the most real thing in his life. Sometimes family is everything. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for more incredible tales. Drop a comment below telling us what you thought and smash that like button. Your support means everything and helps us continue bringing you stories that touch your heart. Until next time, remember, the greatest love stories aren't always about romance.